When we hear the name vampire, only one face comes to mind: Dracula, a blood-drinking monster, something that exists only in stories. But in some regions of Europe, people did not believe in vampires as fiction. They believed in them as reality. For them, a vampire was not a fantasy. It was a corpse that could rise from the grave. In Romania and across Eastern Europe, they were called Strigoi. A Strigoi was believed to be a restless spirit that could not sleep peacefully after death. It would return to its own family. People believed it entered homes at night and drained the life and blood of those who slept. By morning, the victims would wake up weak, sick, and slowly moving toward death. During the 17th and 18th centuries, strange events began spreading across Eastern Europe. Entire villages suddenly fell ill. People died without clear cause. Animals perished. Crops failed. Today, we know these were diseases and infections. But at that time, there was no scientific explanation. So, they blamed someone who had already died. Villagers became convinced that a dead person's spirit had returned to kill the living. And so, a terrifying ritual began. In the darkness of night, graves were dug up. When a coffin was opened, if the body looked even slightly fresh, or if there was a dark stain around the mouth, people were certain this was the Strigoi. Modern archaeologists have discovered graves in Poland, Bulgaria, and Serbia, where skeletons were buried with sickles placed across their necks. These sickles were not symbolic. They were meant as traps. If the corpse tried to rise, it would cut its own throat. In some graves, legs were severed to prevent walking. In others, stones were placed in the mouth to stop biting. All of it was driven by one fear: that the dead could return. One of history's most famous cases is that of Jur Grando. In 1656, in a village in Croatia, he died. But villagers claimed that after his death, he returned at night, knocking on doors. And wherever he knocked, someone would soon die. Eventually, they dug up his grave. They said his body looked fresh, as if still alive. In terror, they pierced his heart. This is often considered the first documented vampire case in history. But the real truth may be darker. These were not vampires. They were fear. When humans cannot understand death, they create monsters to explain it. Diseases like plague, rabies, and tuberculosis caused symptoms that resembled vampire myths: pale skin, bleeding from the mouth, aggression, and restlessness at night. Without science, it all seemed supernatural. Sometimes, when graves were opened, what villagers saw only strengthened their belief. Dark liquid around the mouth, soil beneath the fingernails, scratch marks inside coffins. Today, we know that as bodies decompose, gases build up. The body swells. Liquids can escape from the mouth, resembling blood. But 300 years ago, that looked like proof that the corpse had recently fed. The panic spread from village to village. It became more than a belief. It became an epidemic of fear. Authorities had to intervene. In some accounts, when a suspected Strigoi was staked, witnesses claimed the corpse screamed. Today, we understand that trapped gases can produce sounds when released. But at that time, that sound was final proof. As the 18th century progressed and science advanced, vampire hysteria slowly faded. What was once called Strigoi was simply biology. Today, when archaeologists uncover graves with sickles across the neck, they are uncovering human history. But one question remains. If you had lived in that time, if your brother died suddenly, then 2 more family members followed, and at night you heard scratching from inside a coffin, would you trust science? Or would you dig up the grave? This is less a story about vampires and more a story about human fear. Fear born from ignorance. 400 years later, when we look at those graves, we do not find undead monsters. We find a reminder that when humans lack answers, they create stories. Stories of Dracula, stories of Strigoi. But perhaps the real monster was always fear itself, because sometimes the dead do not rise from the grave. We raise them with our fear.